Howdy friends, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I want to give you 6 tips to help you get started on your herbalism journey today. For those of you who've been hanging around at my channel for a while, howdy, hello, and welcome back. For those who are new, I'm so glad you're here. I'm actually glad all of you are here. My name's Corinne, and I am the herbalist behind Spirea Herbs. Now, I've been doing this for a while, and I've started to notice a little bit of a trend. There are a lot of people who want to get started on their herbal journey. They want to start bringing in natural remedies to their home, supporting their families, feeling more empowered and self-sufficient, but they don't actually do the thing. So I started thinking about why that might be. And I came up with these, hopefully 6 helpful tips to kind of get you in the mindset and hopefully over whatever that roadblock is for you and get you started on your own natural health and herbalism journey. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying that the first 2 are mindset. And so they're going to fall beautifully into the category of easier said than done. But again, I've been around the block a few times, and most of the best things that I have in my life were the things that were hard to do and the things that I actually had to work for. So you might have to work for these ones a little bit. You might have to recognize where you might have some stories, right? And some certain beliefs that you've built up. So number 1, stop turning it into such a big deal. It's really, really easy to set ourselves up for failure or to do something, what I teach my students is called self-sabotaging. Right? If you think that the end goal, learning herbal medicine, is this insurmountable thing, it's the mountain I can't climb. You know what? I got started too late. I don't have a science background. I don't know enough. I'm just a beginner and there's so much information, right? There's a lot of ways that we can turn this into a really big deal. And therefore we talk ourselves out of it. Before we even get started, before we buy our first herbal book, before we find our first herbalist on YouTube or blogs or whatever your medium of choice is, we just say, you know what, forget it. Like, what's the point? These people have been studying for years. I don't have that kind of time, whatever the story might be. So number 1, stop making it such a big deal because it doesn't have to be. Your herbal journey is yours and yours alone. And it's going to be as complicated and in-depth or as easy and light as you want it to be. You don't have to be clinically trained. You may just want to support yourself and your family. You might just want to understand how to start weaving in some basic remedies to support your immune system every winter. I don't know what your journey looks like, but the bigger deal that you make it in your head, the harder it is to get started. It's kind of like the idea of setting a health goal. Right? Let's use that as an example. Let's say you've decided you're going to run a marathon. 5 kilometers. I don't know how many miles that is for my American friends. Let me know in the comments. You'll have to tell me. So say it's a 5K, 5-kilometer marathon. Are you going to run 5 kilometers the first day? Of course not. Right? You've turned it into this big deal that I need to be able to run 5 kilometers by tomorrow. Well, says who? Right? And most of these stories are right in our own head, and we are the creator of them, which means we can uncreate them and we can destroy them. So number 1, stop turning it into such a big deal. All right, number 2 flows kind of nicely from number 1, and it's going to involve a little bit of deprogramming, right? Because I hear the same stories. I don't have time and I don't have money. Okay, so who told you those stories were true? Where did you pick up that program, that belief, that story, and decide that that was truth? That in order to be able to study herbal medicine, I have to have a plethora of money and a plethora of time. Says who? At this point, the only person saying it is you. And so you're going to have to start unwinding a few of those beliefs too. I know I'm getting a little bit more metaphysical, but a lot of this is mindset. Most of the reason why people don't reach their goals has got nothing to do with their goals not being reachable. It has everything to do with what they believe in their head. So I need you to deprogram the idea that studying herbal medicine, immersing yourself in herbal medicine, becoming an at-home herbalist, that these things have to take a lot of time and that they have to take a lot of money. I call phony baloney. That's my YouTube friendly swearing, all right? I call phony baloney on that one because it's just not the case. And I actually want you to check out my most recent video that I just did. It's the first in a series called 5-Minute Herbalism, because I'm trying to prove the idea that it takes a lot of time wrong, because it doesn't. So let's do a little bit of deprogramming. If you're into journaling and writing, maybe start writing out some of the beliefs that you have around this, and then ask yourself if they're actually true. It's kind of a fun exercise, and chances are most of the things that you think you know about herbal medicine and how long it's going to take and how expensive it's going to be just aren't true. So in my online community, Weavers of Plant Wisdom, there's information below if you are interested. I did a whole class on goal setting, and a lot of people know this, but we forget. So we need that gentle reminder. Tip number 3, set small goals, right? We're not planning on 2 months from now being a fully fledged, clinically trained herbalist, are we? Because if you are, then you need to go back to step number 1, because obviously you've turned this into a much bigger thing than it really has to be. So how about, instead of looking at someone like me, like my knowledge, or what my apothecary looks like, or all the different remedies that I make, why not, instead of thinking you need to do all of those things, pick 2 or 3 goals for this season, right? So why don't we chunk our goals into seasons, spring, summer, fall, winter, and pick 1 to 2, right? 1 to 2 things that seem accessible to you. You know what? Corinne just did a really cool video on how to make thyme tea. So my first small goal is that I'm actually going to buy some good quality loose leaf thyme, and I'm going to make the tea, and I'm going to drink it, and I'm going to do that a few times. And so give yourself small, manageable goals that bring you just those few steps closer to who you want to be, right? The person you want to be, that herbalist that you want to be. So don't look at my apothecary and see the hundreds of tincture bottles and then go, oh, I can never do that. Yeah, but guess what? You could make 1. Then what's stopping you? So set small, manageable goals that you can actually reach. And if I can go one little step further, I would love for you to celebrate those goals. You know, drop in. Put a comment on YouTube and tell me what you made so I can celebrate the heck out of you. Tell your friends, tell your family, whatever that might be, but share, you know, in those successes. That's my phone ringing. All right, okay, side note, the only reason why I have a landline is because we turn our phones off at night, and sometimes there's family emergencies and they need to be able to reach us. It never rings. Go figure, it's ringing while I'm filming. I digress. So tip number 4. Tip number 4. This one's an interesting one because there's a lot of people who are quote unquote famous in the world of herbalism. People who are well known. People who've done a lot of videos or written a lot of books or have a lot of, YouTube videos on their channel. But if you don't like their work and you don't really resonate with their vibe, then maybe you need to find a teacher that you do resonate with. So that's my tip. Find someone you like. Find someone who delivers information in a way that you can understand, that delivers it in a way that helps you to remember it, that maybe makes it funny along the way if that's your thing. Not everybody is the same. You're going to have some herbalists that are very upstanding scientific citizens and maybe even wear lab coats. And then you're going to have people like me who are super sarcastic and like to crack jokes and are a little bit more down to earth. And everybody's going to gravitate towards their cup of tea. So I encourage you to find someone that you like and maybe stick with that person, 1 or 2 people, because it can get really overwhelming out in the world of the interwebs where everybody's got an opinion in a way that things should or should not be done. And so sometimes when we're learning from multiple teachers, the information can be conflicting. And when you're just starting out, that's a really good way to get overwhelmed. So tip number 4, find someone you like and start following their work and learning from them. Tip number 5, take advantage of free resources. There are lots of free resources online. In fact, I have a bunch of them, including my newest Starting with Herbalism free ebook, link below. Grab it. Because I see this a lot. I'm going to use my brother as an example. I remember when he wanted to learn guitar. So instead of, say, borrowing a friend's guitar and maybe checking out a few YouTube videos or getting a book out from the library, what did he do? He went out and bought the most expensive guitar there was. Turns out he wasn't really all that interested. So sometimes grabbing free resources is a good way to know if this is actually your jam. You know, maybe you're not as interested in herbal medicine as you thought you were, and you've checked out a few ebooks and you're like, you know what? This actually isn't for me. So before you go investing a whole pile of money into something and you're not really sure, take advantage of those free resources. That's also a really good way to get to know what teachers you like. Do you like their work? Do you like how they write? Do you like how they present information? Lots of us have free stuff out there for you to check out. I have at least 3 different free guides you can check out, but if you're brand new to herbalism, I would recommend the Starting with Herbalism at Home ebook. Link is below. All right, last but not least, tip number 6, invest in a beginner's course. Now, I know that kind of goes against what I was just saying about the free resources, but don't forget the free resources are a good way for you to dip your toe in the pond, get to know the teacher or the guide, and also see if this is where you want to be. Once you've exhausted those free resources and you've figured out who you want to work with, the next step logically is to actually, dare I say, put your money where your mouth is. You say you want to study herbal medicine. Well, why not invest in a beginner's course? And there's something really interesting about the psychology of humans, and that is that we tend to value things more when we pay for them. And so if you are willing to have a little bit of skin in the game, and I say a little bit, like for example, my beginner's course, Becoming the Herbalist at Home, is $92 Canadian. That's really not a lot of money. Most of us spend more money going out for dinner, or even say you just want to go to the movies with your family. You got 2 kids, you and your partner want to go to a movie. You're probably going to be spending about that, right? And, you know, it's interesting how we value things. But anyway, I digress. If you're American, by the way, $92 Canadian is way less than that. But when you make that investment, you've participated in something called an energetic exchange. That's currently how we operate on this interesting planet that we live on. We exchange goods and services for money. And when we have put our money in, when we have got, like I said, some skin in the game or some shares invested or a larger piece of the pie, we're more likely to show up and do the work. Plus, it can be really overwhelming out there on the interwebs. And when you finally choose someone you want to work with that has them guide you, you know, there's usually a framework. Whereas when you head on to Pinterest or YouTube or blogs, you've got piles of information coming from everywhere and it's really difficult to make sense of it. You know, whereas a really good course is going to be laid out in a logical order. And so that is my next tip, is that if you're serious about getting involved in herbal medicine, I say check out one of the beginner courses. Now, I'm not saying don't do what my brother did. I mean, bless him. I doubt he's watching this, but you don't have to go out there and buy the fanciest guitar. You know, I'm not saying go and enroll in a thousands of dollars a year clinical herbal program. Why not get your feet wet and try something? So a really great example is mine, Becoming the Herbalist at Home. There's also information for that below. All right, friends, that's it. That's all. Those are my 6 tips. And my goal with this video was honestly to help you get out of your own way. Because I've been doing this for a while now. I've been seeing people in clinic, which means I've been coaching people to better levels of health and vibrancy. And most of the time when my clients hit roadblocks, the thing that's blocking them is usually them. It's a mindset thing. It's a belief thing. It's a pattern they can't get out of. And so my goal with these 6 tips were to get you thinking about why haven't you started your herbal journey yet? What's stopping you? And then also some tangible tips like grabbing some free resources, finding someone you really like and how they deliver information. And last but not least, investing in yourself and investing in a small beginner's herbalist course to see if it's really what you want to do. Now, if you've got any questions or comments, as always, you can leave them below. I'm really good at getting back to people. And I think that's it for now. And I'll see you in the next video.